Ethan Miller walked slowly across the broken landscape of Leora. The planet was scarred from the border war between humans and the Saralun. Broken buildings lay scattered like fallen toys, and blackened ground stretched for miles. The air smelled of smoke and metal. Ethan's boots crunched over small pieces of debris as he moved carefully, looking for any signs of life. He had been sent here as a field medic, and his job was to help anyone who needed it, human or alien. He noticed movement near the ruins of an old research building. At first, he thought it was just another scavenger or a stray animal. But then he saw her, a small figure crouched behind a fallen wall, peeking at him with wide eyes. She was a child, no more than 8 or 9. Her skin shimmered faintly in the sunlight, a soft silver color, unlike any human's. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with fear. She held herself tightly, as if she was protecting herself from a world that had already hurt her. "Hey," Ethan said gently, keeping his hands visible. He crouched down a few steps away from her. "I'm not going to hurt you." The child flinched, but did not run. Her breathing was uneven, and she shivered slightly. Ethan noticed that her clothes were torn, and there were scratches along her arms. She must have been hiding here for a while. "My name is Ethan," he said softly. "What's your name?" The child stared at him for a long moment. Then, in a small, trembling voice, she said, "Lyra." "Lyra?" Ethan repeated. "It's a nice name. You're safe now. Can I help you?" Lyra's eyes widened, but she didn't speak again. Ethan could see the fear in her gaze. She had clearly been through something terrible. He slowly reached into his bag and pulled out a small water bottle. "Here," he said. "Drink this. You must be thirsty." Lyra hesitated, but finally took it. She drank quickly, almost spilling some on herself. Ethan smiled gently. "That's good. You're okay. I'm here to help." He could see that she had some cuts and bruises. Ethan reached into his bag again and took out a small first aid kit. He approached slowly, making sure not to scare her. "I can clean these and make you feel better," he said. Lyra nodded slightly, still keeping her distance. Ethan cleaned her wounds carefully. He spoke to her the whole time in calm, soft tones. "You're very brave," he said. "Not many kids could stay hidden like this and survive." Lyra looked at him, and for the first time, Ethan thought he saw a small spark of trust in her eyes. "Where is your family?" he asked gently. She shook her head. "They... gone." Her voice was barely above a whisper. Ethan's heart tightened. He had lost people before, too, and he knew the emptiness she must feel. "I will help you find them," he promised. "I can take you to your family. I won't let anything happen to you." Lyra blinked and hugged herself. She didn't speak, but she didn't run away either. Ethan took that as a sign that she believed him, at least a little. He checked the area carefully before standing up. The ruins were dangerous. There could be soldiers, drones, or wild creatures nearby. "We need to move," he said softly. "I'll keep you safe." Lyra nodded. She took his hand tentatively, and Ethan squeezed it gently to reassure her. Together, they began walking across the ruined city. The sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows over broken walls and twisted metal. As they walked, Ethan asked small questions to keep her calm. "Do you like stories?" he asked. Lyra shook her head slowly. "Not yet," she said quietly. "That's okay," he said with a soft smile. "Maybe one day I can tell you a story. Something about brave people and adventures." She glanced at him briefly, her eyes wide, and gave a tiny nod. That was enough for Ethan. They reached a small, broken building that looked safer than the others. Ethan motioned for her to go inside. Lyra hesitated, but finally followed. Inside, He set up a small area with some clean blankets he had in his bag. "You can rest here for a bit," he said. "I'll stay right outside. Nobody will hurt you." Lyra curled up on the blankets, holding herself close. Ethan watched her for a few moments, making sure she was comfortable. He then stepped outside to scan the area. The ruins were quiet, but Ethan knew it would not last. Drones could appear at any moment. He thought about the promise he had made to her. She was alone, scared, and injured. He could not leave her here. He had to find her mother. But where would he even start? The border war had displaced thousands of Saraloon families. Finding one child's mother seemed impossible. Ethan shook his head, trying to push away the doubts. He had done impossible things before. He could do it again. "We will find your mother, Lyra," he whispered to himself. "I promise." The night came quickly on Leora. The sky was a swirl of purples and blues, with twin moons glowing softly above. Ethan kept watch outside the small shelter while Lyra slept fitfully. He could hear her small, uneven breathing and the quiet rustle of the broken city outside. Suddenly, there was a distant sound of movement. Ethan's hand went to his side where he kept his small energy pistol. "Stay down," he whispered. Lyra stirred but did not wake fully. Ethan peered into the darkness, trying to see what was coming. After a few tense moments, a small patrol drone passed by. It did not see them. Ethan waited until it moved on before relaxing slightly. He knew this was only the beginning. The world outside was dangerous, and the journey to find Lyra's mother would be even more dangerous. But Ethan had made a promise. He would not fail her. He would protect her, and he would bring her home. As the night deepened, Ethan sat quietly, thinking about what lay ahead. He looked at the small figure of Lyra, sleeping on the blankets, and felt a deep sense of responsibility. She was counting on him, and he would not let her down. In the morning, they would begin the journey. Across the broken landscape, through war zones and enemy patrols, they would go together. Ethan was not just a human soldier anymore. He was a protector. He was her guardian, and he would do whatever it took to reunite a mother and her child. Ethan whispered one last promise to the sleeping girl. "Tomorrow, we start, and I will get you back to your mother, no matter what." Lyra stirred slightly in her sleep, as if she understood. Ethan watched over her until the first light of dawn touched the broken city, giving him hope for the journey ahead. The next morning, Ethan and Lyra left the ruined shelter. The sun rose slowly over the jagged horizon of Leora, painting the broken landscape in soft pink and orange light. The air was still cold, and the smell of smoke from the previous battles lingered. Ethan kept a careful watch as they moved. Every shadow, every sound made him alert. He could not afford to let his guard down. Lyra walked close to him, her small hand gripping his sleeve. She had not spoken much since the morning, but Ethan did not mind. He knew she needed time. They walked in silence for a while, passing burned-out buildings and twisted metal. Occasionally, small creatures would scuttle across their path, but they were harmless. Ethan's eyes, however, were always scanning for danger. "Are you hungry?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded slightly. Ethan opened his bag and took out some rations. They were simple. Dried protein packs and water, but they would have to do. He handed her a pack. Lyra hesitated at first, looking at it as if she had never eaten before. Then she slowly tore it open and began to eat. Ethan watched her carefully. She was fragile, but her movements were steady and deliberate. "You're stronger than you look," he said gently. Lyra looked up at him but did not respond. She was still shy, but Ethan could see the trust slowly growing. They continued walking across the broken city. Ethan asked small questions to keep her mind occupied. "Do you have a favorite place? Somewhere you liked before all this?" Lyra thought for a moment. "The gardens," she said finally. "My mother, She used to take me there. Ethan nodded. Gardens sound nice. Maybe we will find a garden like that again. Somewhere safe. Lyra smiled faintly. It was the first time he saw her smile, and it made him feel a small spark of hope. As they moved further, the city became quieter, almost eerily so. Ethan slowed his steps, his hand resting on the small energy pistol at his side. Stay close, he whispered. Something does not feel right. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from one of the ruined buildings. Ethan immediately crouched and signaled Lyra to do the same. She obeyed without hesitation. A group of scavengers appeared, moving quickly and carrying crude weapons. Ethan knew they were dangerous. They could take Lyra, or worse, attack him. He pulled Lyra behind a wall and whispered, "We have to be quiet and careful. Don't make a sound." The scavengers walked past them, not noticing the small figure hiding behind the wall. Ethan waited until they were out of sight before continuing. "It's okay now," he said softly. "You're safe." Lyra nodded, though her small body still trembled. Ethan could feel her fear, but he also sensed her courage. She had survived this long, and she would survive with him. They walked for hours, leaving the city behind. The terrain changed from broken buildings to open plains with jagged rocks. The sun grew hotter, and the wind carried dust and small pebbles that stung their skin. Ethan helped Lyra over rough patches and guided her around dangerous rocks. "Do you get scared?" he asked softly. "Sometimes," Lyra admitted. "That's okay," Ethan said. "Being scared doesn't make you weak. It just means you are careful and alive." Lyra looked at him and nodded. She seemed to understand. As they traveled, Ethan thought about the stories Lyra had told him. She remembered her mother's voice, the gardens they visited, and the songs she used to sing. Ethan listened carefully, learning every detail. He knew that these memories were important, not just for finding her mother, but for keeping Lyra strong. By late afternoon, they reached a small stream. Water was rare on this part of the planet, and Ethan knew it was important to rest. He helped Lyra wash some of the dust from her face and arms. The cool water refreshed them both. Lyra smiled faintly as she splashed a little, and Ethan laughed quietly. "See," he said, "even in a broken place you can find something nice." They ate again near the stream. Ethan made sure Lyra drank plenty of water. He also cleaned the small wounds on her arms again, making sure they were bandaged properly. "We have to stay strong," he said, "you and I both." As they rested, Ethan noticed dark clouds forming on the horizon. Storms on Leora could be sudden and dangerous. He helped Lyra pack her small bag quickly. "We need to move before the storm hits," he said. Lyra nodded and followed him closely. They climbed over rocky hills as the wind grew stronger. The first drops of rain fell, cold and sharp. Ethan kept moving, leading Lyra to a small cave he had spotted earlier. They crawled inside just as the storm broke in full force. Rain pounded on the rocks, and lightning lit the sky in bright flashes. Ethan pulled Lyra close, keeping her warm and safe. "You're doing great," he whispered. "We're almost through it." Lyra shivered, but stayed close. Ethan knew that her trust in him was growing with every step, every danger they faced together. After the storm passed, the air smelled fresh, and the ground was wet and soft. Ethan led Lyra out of the cave and surveyed the area. The path ahead was still dangerous. War patrols could be anywhere, and the terrain was rough. But they had survived the storm, and Ethan felt a small surge of hope. As they walked again, Lyra began to speak more. She told Ethan small things about her life before the war, about the gardens, the songs, and her favorite stories. Ethan listened carefully, encouraging her to remember everything. "Your mother must be proud of you," he said softly. "You are brave, Lyra." She looked up at him and smiled a little. "You saved me," she said. Ethan shook his head. "No, you saved yourself. I just helped a little. But we will find your mother." I promise." The journey continued for days. They moved carefully, avoiding patrols and dangerous areas. Ethan taught Lyra small survival skills, how to find clean water, how to recognize dangerous animals, and how to stay hidden. She was quick to learn, and Ethan admired her determination. One night, as they camped under a small overhang, Lyra spoke quietly. "Do you think she's looking for me?" Ethan looked at her, his expression serious but gentle. "I know she is. Mothers never stop looking for their children. We just have to get there before something stops us." Lyra nodded and curled up close to him. Ethan kept watch that night, thinking about the journey ahead. They had survived storms, scavengers, and rough terrain. But the hardest part was still ahead, finding her mother in a world torn by war. The next morning, they continued again. Ethan had mapped out a route based on Lyra's memories. She remembered a river, a hill shaped like a crescent, and a grove of tall trees. He followed her directions carefully, trusting her memory. Hours passed, and finally, they reached the river. Lyra gasped softly. "I remember this," she said. "We used to play here." Ethan smiled. "Then we're on the right track." They rested by the river, letting Lyra drink and eat. Ethan looked around, planning their next move. The path ahead would take them into territory where humans and Saralun often clashed. It would be dangerous, but he could not turn back. Lyra's mother was out there waiting for them, and he had promised to bring them together. As the sun set, Ethan looked at the small girl beside him. She was tired, dirty, and scared, but she was alive. And that was enough for now. Tomorrow, they would continue. And he would protect her every step of the way. No matter what came, Ethan knew one thing clearly. He would not let anything happen to Lyra. He would keep her safe, and he would bring her back to her mother, even if it meant facing the entire war itself. Ethan and Lyra had been traveling for days. The terrain was changing now. The plains had ended, replaced by a dense forest of tall, silver-leaved trees. The wind whispered through the branches, and the light was dim beneath the thick canopy. Lyra held tightly to Ethan's hand. She could feel that they were getting close to her home, and excitement mixed with fear in her heart. "Do you remember the path?" Ethan asked softly as they moved carefully among the trees. Lyra nodded. "Yes, just over the hill, then the grove of tall trees. Mother waits there." Ethan smiled gently. "We're almost there. You've been very brave." She looked up at him but didn't say anything. Ethan could see her nervousness. She had been separated from her mother for so long, and now the moment of meeting again was almost here. They walked for several hours, following Lyra's memories. The forest was quiet, but Ethan kept alert. He knew this was the edge of Saralun territory. Any wrong step could bring danger from the Saralun patrols, who were strict and suspicious of humans. Suddenly, Lyra stopped and pointed ahead. "I see the grove," she whispered. "Mother, she is there." Ethan looked and saw a small clearing in the forest. In the center, a tall figure stood, surrounded by several other Saralun. The figure was strong, graceful, and commanding. Her silver-blue skin shone in the dappled sunlight. Ethan knew instantly that this must be Melis, Lyra's mother. She was watching them carefully, her eyes sharp and alert. "Stay close," Ethan whispered. He kept his hand on Lyra's shoulder, guiding her forward slowly. As they stepped into the clearing, Melis's gaze sharpened. She raised her hand, signaling her guards. The other Saralun formed a circle around them, weapons at the ready. Lyra froze, clutching Ethan's arm tightly. "Who is this human?" Melis demanded, her voice strong and commanding. Her eyes were fierce, and her posture was tense. "Why is he holding my child?" Ethan stepped forward slowly, hands raised slightly to show he meant no harm. "I am Ethan," he said calmly. "I found Lyra after she was separated from you. I protected her. I only wanted to bring her home." Milas's eyes narrowed. "How can I believe you?" she asked sharply. "Humans have caused much suffering to my people. Why should I trust one now?" Ethan took a deep breath. He knew he had to show her his intentions clearly. "I did not take her. I did not harm her. I risked my life to keep her safe. You can ask her. She knows the truth." Lyra stepped forward slightly. "Mother," she said softly. He saved me. He kept me safe. He didn't hurt me." Milas's eyes softened for a moment, but the tension in her body did not ease. She glanced at the other Saralun guards. "Is this true?" she asked them. The guards nodded silently. Some had seen Ethan fight off scavengers and protect Lyra during the journey. Milas's expression shifted, her anger replaced by cautious curiosity. "You carried her through danger?" she asked Ethan. "Yes," he said simply, "through storms, wild animals, and enemy patrols. I would do it again. I promised her I would bring her home, and I kept that promise." Milas studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she lowered her hand. "If what you say is true, you have done a great service," she said. Her voice was softer now, but her eyes still watched him carefully. Ethan nodded. "I just wanted to keep her safe until I could return her to you." Lyra ran into her mother's arms, holding on tightly. Milas hugged her daughter, and for the first time, her face showed relief. Tears filled her eyes, and she whispered softly, "I thought I had lost you forever." Lyra looked up at Ethan, her eyes shining. "Thank you," she said. "He saved me." Milas turned to Ethan, her expression complex. "You are a human," she said, "and yet you risked everything for my child." "Why?" Ethan shrugged slightly. "Because it was the right thing to do. I couldn't leave her alone. No one should be left alone, not a child, not anyone." Milas studied him carefully. She had been taught to distrust humans, to see them as enemies, but she could not deny what she saw, a human who had put himself at risk to save her daughter. Slowly, she nodded. "You have proven yourself," she said. "But you must understand, trust is not given lightly among my people." "I understand," Ethan said. "I don't expect anything. I just wanted to keep her safe until she could be with you again." The guards relaxed slightly, but their eyes still watched him. Ethan knew he had to be careful. One wrong move could reignite their suspicion. Milas turned back to Lyra, holding her close. "You have grown strong, my child," she said softly. "And you have been protected by this human." She glanced at Ethan again. "You will come with us. You must show that your intentions are honorable, and then perhaps my people will see you as a friend." Ethan nodded. "I will follow your lead," he said. "I only want to do what is right." Together, they began moving toward a small settlement deeper in the forest. Ethan walked behind Lyra and Milas, alert for any danger. He could feel the eyes of the Saralun guards on him, but he remained calm. He knew that his actions in the coming hours would decide whether they accepted him or not. Along the path, Lyra held Ethan's hand lightly, looking up at him. "Will she trust you?" she asked softly. "I hope so," Ethan said. "But it doesn't matter what she thinks yet. What matters is that she sees I helped you and kept you safe. That is the most important thing." The forest began to thin as they approached the settlement. Simple dwellings made of natural materials appeared, blending with the surroundings. Saralun children played nearby, and the air was filled with a sense of life and community. Ethan noticed that the people stopped what they were doing to watch them pass. A human walking among them was rare, and curiosity was written on every face. Milas guided them to the center of the settlement, where a small ceremonial area stood. She gestured for Ethan to stand before her. "Here," she said, "you will show my people that you mean no harm." Ethan stepped forward. He raised his hand slightly as a sign of peace. "I am Ethan," he said clearly. "I only came to protect Lyra and return her to her mother. I do not wish to harm anyone here." The Saralun elders observed him silently. Ethan could feel their scrutiny. He kept his posture steady, his gaze calm. Slowly, one of the elders nodded. Another followed. It was a slow process, but Ethan could sense that they were beginning to believe him. Finally, Milas spoke. "You have done something rare among humans. You have protected a child when you did not need to. You have risked your life. That is honorable." She paused, looking at him fully. "You may stay here, but know this. Any harm to my people will end immediately. Do you understand?" "I understand," Ethan said firmly. "I only want to help, and I will not harm anyone." Milas nodded. "Then you will be accepted, at least for now." Lyra hugged Ethan tightly. "See," she said softly. "I told you. She understands." Ethan smiled gently. "Yes, and we will keep moving forward, together." That night, Ethan sat by the fire with Lyra and watched her sleep peacefully beside her mother. He had survived storms, scavengers, and the long journey across dangerous land. Now, he had reached the threshold of Saralun trust. But he knew this was only the beginning. To truly help them, he would have to earn the trust of every member of this community, prove that humans were not only capable of destruction, but also of great compassion. Ethan's mind was alert even as he rested. He knew that the days ahead would be filled with challenges, tests, and perhaps danger. But he also knew something stronger, that one human, acting with courage and kindness, could change the course of lives, and maybe even the course of history. As the fire crackled and the forest whispered around them, Ethan made a quiet promise to himself. "I will protect them. I will keep this family safe, and I will prove that humans can do good in this galaxy, no matter what anyone believes."